Hey everyone, this is Matthew Kent, and thanks so much for joining me today. I've been reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I've actually been listening to The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Audiobooks are sort of more where my head's at right now. They fit with my schedule a little bit better, but it's a great book, and one of the things that I appreciate so much about it is it's chocked full of amazing quotes. I mean amazing quotes that I've just been mentally chewing on since I've started reading this. I've written many of them down, and some of them are just so good that I knew that I had to share them. And there's one in particular that came to the top of my mind, the top of my list, that I said, this is just so good, so true, such a concise thought, and so actionable that I had to share it with people, and so hence this video. And it comes from Thomas J. Watson, who was the CEO of IBM until he died in about, I think it was 1956. I looked him up. And this quote, I think, you might have heard it before, you might not have, but if you haven't seriously considered this quote before, I think you owe it to yourself to consider it, because I absolutely think he's right. So here's the quote. The quote is, if you want to double your rate of success, double your rate of failure. Right? So it's one of these wonderful counterintuitive pieces of advice that I think, in the end of the day, it rings true. Now, when I first heard it, I was a little bit confused, because when you think about the concept of a rate, right? And so I was thinking of, okay, you attempt something, and then you either succeed or you fail. So, you know, your rate of success would be the number of times you succeeded over the number of times you tried. And so if that goes up, your rate of failure has to go down, right? If the coin is heads more often, that means it has to be tails less often. But I don't think that's the sense in which he meant it. I think by rate, he is more talking about attempts per period of time. So how often do you try something a day? How often do you try something a week, a month, a year? And so in other words, what he's getting at here is you're going to fail a lot, because that's how humans naturally learn and grow. But if you're only failing 5 times a month and you double that to 10, you're going to double the amount of times that you succeed in a given month. And so this is kind of the way humans learn and grow in general. When you think about it, I think about my kids. I've got 2 kids right now. Elijah, who learned how to walk very young, and he's 3 years old now. He's been walking forever. And then you have Nora, who's 10 months, and she's been walking for a little bit now. Not, fully walking now where she can go anywhere, but she can sort of walk in a straight line, and she's getting better. But when my kids learned how to walk, it wasn't like, they just stood up and then they took a couple of steps and that was the most they could do. So then they sat back down and they said, okay, we'll just incrementally improve and I'll only do what I can manage. They always did a little bit more than they could manage. They always set a little bit too ambitious of goals for themselves, and they got up and they'd start to walk and they'd start to fall and we'd catch them. Or sometimes we didn't catch them and they'd just fall. But we have carpet, don't worry about it. This isn't child abuse. But that's how kids learn. And that's not just how kids learn. That's how anyone learns. You try something, you fail, you get better at it, and then you try again. And sometimes you try at something, excuse me, that you don't think that you're going to succeed at, and you do. But how often do we let fear hold us back? The fear of failure, or probably more poignantly, more to the point, the fear of failing in front of other people, right? They're going to see us. They're going to see that we tried something, that it didn't work out. They'll try to sort of chuckle to themselves like, ha, 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 I knew they couldn't do it. Why do we let that hold us back? Now, one of the things that's been interesting to me in recent days when I've been thinking about this quote is, a lot of times we blame, oh, well, the time's not right. I could do this next thing, but maybe later, maybe tomorrow, maybe when the stars align, maybe when I have a good idea. First of all, the stars are never going to align. Second of all, a good idea it's hard to know whether or not you have a good idea before you test it out. And here's what I mean. Think of an idea that right now was a brilliant idea in hindsight. Right? Think of somebody who had an idea and has made millions off it. Think of whoever the CEO and founder of Uber is. Uber is crushing it right now. I mean crushing it, because it was a brilliant idea that he had to have this app where you could request a ride and a driver would fulfill that need. Put yourself in the position of when he was first getting started and telling people. Was it a brilliant idea back then? No, it was a stupid idea, right? Think of how much resistance he probably went up against internally and when people told him what a stupid idea it was. Hey, don't you know no one is ever going to use this app where they're requesting a ride from a stranger, an unlicensed taxi? That's so unsafe. Hey, don't you know that in the big cities it won't work because you'll have to compete against taxis and public transportation? Don't you know in the small cities it's not going to work because you're not going to find enough drivers and it's not going to be available enough? It's a stupid idea. But the way to figure out if it's a stupid idea or not is to test it. And it got tested and it's a great idea. How many great ideas have you had that have just been written off because people have told you, hey, that'll never work? They don't know. They've never come up with a $1 million idea. So test your ideas, try them out, see if they work. For me, I've been thinking along the lines of my bullet journal rejection log. So some of you might have seen, I did a video a while back in my bullet journal, which is sort of my mind outside of my brain. It's my calendar. It's where I store everything. I take a ton of notes here. But I implemented a feature that I don't think anyone else has. I called it my rejection log, where my goal was to actively seek out rejections. And so this is similar to failures. Well, it's a little bit more narrow. And so my thought was anytime that I asked somebody to do something for me that they could reject me, like if I submit an article to a website for publishing, I try to do some freelance writing, say, hey, here's an article I wrote, I think you might want to publish. That's a potential rejection. If I ask somebody, hey, will you support my online endeavors by supporting me on Patreon, the website, that's a potential rejection. They might say no. And so every time they say no, that counts as one rejection towards my goal. And my goal was, I started this in late June, early July. And so I had about half the year left. My goal for the end of 2016 was to accumulate 50 rejections. 50 rejections. To put me on pace for 100 rejections a year. And it's gone great so far. I've actually gotten accepted more than I've gotten rejected, which is crazy. So it's resulted in a very net positive for me. Overall, the rejections are not really anything. They don't affect me at all. When I've been accepted has resulted in a great positive benefit toward my life. So this has been an unambiguously good idea and helpful in my own life. And I'm way farther along now. I'm recording this video in mid-September than I was back then, just because of this practice of going out and aggressively seeking rejection. And so I'm thinking in 2017 to expand this concept to not just be for rejection, but to just be for failure in general. So what I want to do is, anytime I do something that might not work, like right now, the next thing that I want to fail at, and that's my goal now, it's a mindset change, is failure, is to create an online course. Because complexity is the enemy of execution, I want to make it as simple as possible to just get this thing out. So I'm just going to set a hard date that I want to have it done by, and I want to put it out there. And of course, like anything, there's a billion reasons why this won't work. Why would somebody pay to hear what I have to say? There's no way anyone would ever do that. But as much as there's a billion reasons why it wouldn't work, if you search real hard, there's reasons why A, it would work, and B, it'll be better for me anyway to attempt this because I'll, be able to master the art of getting something done with a deadline, of putting something out there in the public that I'm afraid to put out, which I had to do that initially when I started making these videos, and I've gotten more comfortable, and so I've been able to put out more videos. And it'll get me practice, just making online courses and how to go about that, how to think about that, so I can set myself up for the future if I've got a really good idea for an online course. So like I said, one of the keys to success in life, I've said this in other videos, is to create systems where even if you lose, you win. And it's counterintuitive, but I literally think by pursuing failure, you've created a setup where even if you lose, you're gonna win. So my encouragement for you is figure out how often you're failing and try to double it. And I'm confident that you will double your rate of success just with this one little practice, this one little life hack, whatever you want to call it. So if you enjoyed the ideas, the rant that I shared in this video, be sure to subscribe, get more ideas like this, get more of my thoughts as I unpack what I'm learning. I'm still on this whole journey to entrepreneurship, to putting ideas out there that are relevant and good for people and that hopefully impact people and change lives. And so I really appreciate your subscription. I really appreciate you watching this video. It feels like it's turned into a long one because I've been up here ranting for a long one. But like I said, subscribe. You'll get the future videos, and we can keep in touch. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you like this video. Thanks for watching.